Predator is a 1987 US action thriller by John McTiernan. More about Tiernan in the Die Hard and The Lost Action Hero retrospective, with elements of horror, science fiction and war films. There is so far a sequel, 2 independent spin-offs / crossovers with Alien, and 4 wannabe sequels, remake, prequel, whatsoever, which unsuccessfully tried to establish a franchise, where from my point of view there never was or is one, since the story was already completely told in the first, and then you can only make a remake, which, yes, sometimes, though rarely, surpass the original, but mostly they are unnecessary and meaningless, similar to other so-called franchises like Alien, Mad Max, Evil Dead, Terminator, Nightmare, RoboCop, Starship Troopers, Jurassic Park and so on. There the good parts are also only those where the same story is told again, only this time in technically more elaborate, often then with the focus shifting away from horror going more into action direction. An US special unit led by Major Dutch Schaefer aka Arnold Schwarzenegger is in the South American jungle on a supposed rescue mission. They come across a chameleon-like creature from outer space, which has been hunting fighters in the jungle for some time, primarily men, and seems to spare women, for example. This predator hunts down one after the other of the team, until Dutch can outsmart him in the final, whereupon the creature activates a self-destruction while Arnie and a surviving woman can escape in the last minute. The $18 million movie pulled almost 100 million worldwide back. Similar to Alien, it starts with a group and only the last third becomes the usual one-man show. It embodies everything known as 80s action cliches. An elite troupe of muscle men who constantly knock out some iconic one-liner, completely exaggerated violent scenes, and a mysterious overpowered opponent who finally has to be tricked in a one-on-one fight. The reason this works is because the spectacular action, similar to Terminator, pushes the simple story forward and nobody tries to overshadow the other. 1990, Stephen Hopkins' Predator 2 shows up. The movie plays similar to Escape from New York in the distant future of 1997. While drug gangs in LA fight street battles with the police, they themselves become victims of a mysterious killer. A police officer tries to find him and discovers that he is not from this world. Part 2 successfully moves the setting from the normal jungle to the urban jungle. It made barely its costs back and got mostly moderate to negative reviews, not daring to address the real issue of this movie. His only shortcoming is, from my point of view, the complete miscast with Danny Glover, whom you don't believe for a second his grandpa action badassery. The argument he had already convinced in Lethal Weapon in an action role comes mostly from unsuspecting stupids who seemingly forgot that back then Mel Gibson played most of the action scenes, and Glover's character was already in part 1 about to retire. This contrast was the recipe for its success back then. Nevertheless, Predator Urban Commando is one of the few good sequels, and very entertaining until almost the end, except for the idiotic scene in the spaceship. But more about that later. 2004, Paul W. Anderson's Alien vs. Predator appears. An expedition on behalf of the Wayland Corporation explores an underground pyramid for whatever reason. It is led by company founder Charles Bishop Wayland, who confusingly is played by the same as Bishop from Aliens. But no one suspects predators are incubating aliens here to use them for combat training. Of course, the expedition gets between the fronts. The completely pulled out of the head plot reminds suspiciously of fanfiction, because it is. The idea first appeared as comics in early 1990. In the same year, Predator 2 appeared with a gag scene at the end in which it is implied that aliens belong to their prey. Unfortunately, it didn't stay that way, and the childish bullshit idea with which two so-called franchises are made ridiculous was actually realized, and fitting for this silly kid stuff with PG-13. From my point of view, this movie marks Paul W. Anderson's departure from until then at least interesting projects, where I even count the first Resident Resident Evil among them. But since AVP, he's shitting out garbage on an assembly line, resulting in abominations like Resident Evil 6, The Last Embarrassment. The movie itself is well cast, more or less okay, and even has a passable first half. But it falls completely apart as soon as the first alien shows up. Since you can notice here directly, nobody really knew what to do with this character. So it gets degraded from a highly intelligent, unpredictable, unique danger like in the original Alien to the by-the-numbers monster of the week. That here to hundreds, like critters, creeps and other plagues, is now in masses used as cannon fodder. And of course there is a scene at the end in which a so-called predalien hatches. You really can't make this crap up. Supposedly a hybrid of Predator and Alien. But we see in the sequel it's actually just another alien monster. At costs of $60 million and despite moderate reviews, it unfortunately made with 170 million worldwide enough profit to warrant a sequel. In 2007, the Strauser brothers brought us Aliens vs. Predator with the appropriate addition Requiem, Latin Mass for the Dead. And truly, the for a change R-rated flick is the purest swan song with which the AVP experiment was finally put into its grave. So no Aliens vs. Predators. It continues at the end of Alien vs. Predator. Throw the Predalien. The spaceship crashes over the North American forests. The hybrid kills the last predator on board before it can activate its self-destruct and escapes with some facehuggers into the woods. AVP2 Predalien Boogaloo fell despite a smaller budget than Part 1, $40 million, with a worldwide box office of only 120 million, still short of expectations, and was for sure not a hit. It was quite rightly savaged by audiences and critics. For some reason the picture quality is also much too dark, and since it takes place mainly at night, it's hard to see anything, but maybe that's in its favor. The story has hardly any plot and the characters are one-dimensional bores with childish dialogues. The whole thing is just a vehicle for some drastic wannabe shock effects, while its predecessor passed for harmless fun, which at least had some trash entertainment value. This is just a mean-spirited, illogical, unimaginative piece of crap that is downright scary incompetent staged.
If I'm right, we're all dead.
All of a sudden there was a light, and then I was falling.
In 2010 comes along with Nimrod Anatol's Predators. If we now officially adapt the alien counting method, the next one is probably called Predator Cubic. A group of criminals and soldiers, a doctor is also there, who in the final of course turns out to be a Jack the Ripper wannabe, parachute on a foreign planet in the jungle. All of them seem to have been pulled out of some kind of battle, waking up here. It turns out that they were kidnapped for training purposes by aliens, which want to improve their fighting skills. Now they have to face two different predators, which also fight each other, hunting humans with their awful CGI alien dogs. The $40 million boar made worldwide 3 times its budget back and was a moderate success, but certainly no hit. The reviews were also rather mixed, but tended to be slightly optimistic. Understandable after the last AVP fiasco, which lowered the bar to ground zero. So I'm going to say how it is. This movie is garbage. The completely far-fetched story has such huge logic holes that a whole fleet of starships could easily float undetected through them. The beer-bellied Lawrence Fishburne, who supposedly survived 10 hunts and killed several predators, sure, comes out of nowhere risking his life to get the newcomers to his hideout, only to immediately want to get rid of them as quickly as possible and for no compelling reason kill them in their sleep. There is not a single character to vote for. All of them are just one one-dimensional cardboard cutouts who try to pass with stupid puns as tough guys, dangerous killers or lone wolves. With dialogue so extraterrestrially bad, here on Earth it would probably be prosecuted as a case of acoustic assault. On top of that, action pianist Adrian Brody is once again being played as the toughest of the tough. It's a mystery to me why the movie unnecessarily strangles itself to death with such a total miscast in the lead. But since it already with every shot, dialogues, the original score, ideas and setting, of course, as in part 1, there is also a woman, steals from his predecessors, of course, quotes. In one scene, even the plot of the original is bluntly spoken into the camera. Maybe this is supposed to be the reference to the Danny Glover miscasting in part 2. Who knows? For the Predator movies since 2018, see part 2 of the retrospective.